My wife's $80,000 gambling spree wasn't the worst part. Her explanation for her addiction left me completely devastated. I, 32 am, never thought I'd find myself writing this, but I'm living through what feels like a complete nightmare and desperately need advice. What started as a seemingly normal marriage has spiraled into a situation that's destroying not just our finances, but our entire life together. It began about 8 months ago when I first noticed something off about our bank statements. Working in finance has made me pretty meticulous about our money, so when I saw a few unusual withdrawals, it caught my attention. Nothing major at first, a couple hundred here and there, but enough to make me raise an eyebrow. When I casually mentioned it to my wife, she brushed it off as some online shopping and home improvement purchases. Given that we were planning to renovate our kitchen, it seemed reasonable enough. But then the withdrawals started getting bigger. $500, $1,000, sometimes even $2,000 in a single day. Each time I brought it up, she had an explanation ready, helping her sister with medical bills, investing in a friend's startup, or contributing to some emergency fund at work. The excuses were always just plausible enough that I wanted to believe them, even though something felt off. I should have trusted my gut earlier, but hindsight is 20/20, right? We'd been married for 8 years, built a life together, and I genuinely believed we told each other everything. That trust would turn out to be my biggest mistake. 3 months ago, I decided to check our savings account, something I hadn't done in a while since we had it set up for automatic deposits. My heart nearly stopped when I saw the balance, $47,000 gone. Almost everything we'd saved over the past 5 years had vanished. I immediately tried calling my wife, but she didn't pick up. Instead, she texted saying she was in an important meeting and would talk later. That evening, she came home later than usual, looking exhausted and avoiding eye contact. When I confronted her about the missing money, she broke down crying, claiming she'd invested it in a sure thing through a friend at work. She promised she'd get it all back and more, begging me to trust her just a little longer. Like an idiot, I agreed to give her time to sort it out, mainly because I'd never seen her so desperate. Weeks passed, and things only got worse. Our credit card bills started showing mysterious charges. I noticed she was staying up late almost every night, always on her laptop with the screen tilted away from me. She became increasingly irritable and defensive whenever money came up in conversation. The breaking point came last week when I got a call from our bank about suspicious activity. Someone had attempted to take out a second mortgage on our house, a house we'd spent years saving for. I left work early and drove home, my hands shaking on the steering wheel the entire way. I found my wife in our home office, hunched over her laptop. She didn't even notice me enter the room, too engrossed in what I could now clearly see was an online casino website. The screen was flashing with slot machines and poker tables, and I watched in horror as she clicked through them frantically, entering numbers that made my stomach turn. "How long?" was all I could manage to say. She jumped, slamming the laptop shut, but it was too late. The look on her face, a mixture of shame, fear, and something else I couldn't quite place, told me everything I needed to know. Or so I thought. What followed was the most surreal conversation of my life. She started by admitting to the gambling, saying it had been going on for almost a year. She'd started small, just a few dollars here and there, but it quickly escalated. The investments she'd mentioned were all losses at online casinos. The late nights were spent trying to win back what she'd lost. The helping friends and family stories? All lies to cover her tracks. I was devastated but tried to stay calm. I told her we needed to get her help, that gambling addiction was a serious issue but treatable. I even started looking up treatment centers on my phone right there. That's when things took an even darker turn. She suddenly stood up, her entire demeanor changing. "You want to know why I really started gambling?" she asked, her voice eerily calm. "It was because of your other family." I thought I'd misheard her at first. "What other family?" She pulled out her phone and showed me a social media profile of some guy who, I'll admit, looks vaguely like me. He was posing with his wife and 2 kids in front of a house in Michigan, a state I've never even visited. According to her, this was proof of my secret life. The accusation was so absurd I actually laughed, which turned out to be a huge mistake. She flew into a rage, insisting that my business trips over the past few years weren't really for work, but to visit this supposed other family. She had constructed an entire elaborate narrative. The man in the photos was me using a slight variation of my name. The house was bought with money I'd been secretly siphoning from our accounts. Ironic, given the current situation. And the kids were the same age they'd be if I'd started this other life around the time we got married. I tried reasoning with her, pointing out the countless holes in her theory. I work from home most of the time, and my few business trips are never longer than 2 or 3 days. I showed her my passport, which didn't have any stamps from recent years. I even pulled up my location history on Google Maps to prove I'd never been to Michigan. None of it mattered. She was convinced this fantasy was real, and worse, she was using it to justify her gambling. In her mind, she wasn't stealing our money. She was taking back what I'd supposedly taken from her to support this fictional other family. The next few days were absolute chaos. She started calling family members and friends, telling them about both the gambling, which she now claimed was an investment strategy gone wrong, and her delusions about my supposed secret family. While most people didn't believe the second part, the fact that she was spreading these lies was devastating to my reputation. I tried getting her to see a therapist, but she refused, saying I was trying to make her look unstable to cover my tracks. When I suggested couples counseling, she accused me of trying to manipulate her in front of a witness. Then came the biggest blow. While going through our financial documents to assess the damage, I discovered multiple credit cards opened in my name that I knew nothing about. She had somehow gotten access to my social security number and other personal information, not difficult given our years of marriage, and had racked up nearly $30,000 in credit card debt. I immediately froze my credit and started documenting everything: bank statements, withdrawal records, the attempted loan application, screenshots of the gambling sites in her browser history, and recordings of our conversations, legal in our state. I knew I needed to protect myself, but it felt surreal taking these steps against the woman I'd shared my life with for nearly a decade. The emotional toll has been unbearable. I've lost weight, can't sleep, and find myself second-guessing every memory of our marriage. Were there signs I missed? Could I have prevented this somehow? The woman I thought I knew better than anyone has become a stranger who's not only destroyed our financial future, but is actively trying to destroy my reputation with elaborate lies. I finally contacted a divorce lawyer last week. The meeting was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was necessary. The lawyer advised me to 1. Secure all important documents and move them to a safe location. 2. Open a separate bank account at a different bank. 3. Document all future interactions. 4. Not move out of the house without legal counsel. 5. Not confront her about any new accusations. I'm following this advice, but living under the same roof with her has become increasingly difficult. She alternates between periods of eerie calm, where she acts like nothing is wrong, and explosive accusations about my other life. Last night, she spent 3 hours trying to convince me to just admit to having another family, saying she would forgive me if I came clean. The financial damage is staggering. Between the emptied savings account, credit card debt, and other loans I'm still discovering, we're looking at over $80,000 gone. My lawyer says we might be able to prove the credit cards were opened fraudulently, but that's a complicated process that could potentially result in criminal charges against her. I never thought I'd be in this position. The person I trusted most in the world has not only betrayed that trust in the most fundamental way, but has created an elaborate fantasy to justify her actions. I'm torn between wanting to help her, because clearly, she's dealing with some serious mental health issues, and needing to protect myself from further damage. This morning, I found her on the phone with a private investigator, apparently trying to hire someone to prove her theories about my non-existent other family. I recorded the conversation and sent it to my lawyer, but it feels like every day brings some new, unbelievable development. I know I need to divorce her. The trust is irreparably broken, and her refusal to acknowledge reality or seek help means there's no path forward together. But I'm terrified about what she might do next. Will she empty our remaining accounts before I can legally separate them? Will she try to contact my employer with her false accusations? Will she escalate to more dangerous behavior? For now, I'm staying with a close friend while my lawyer prepares the divorce papers. I've told my employer a simplified version of what's happening, just in case she tries to contact them. I've also started seeing a therapist to help process all of this. I guess I'm sharing this partly as a warning and partly because I need to know I'm not alone. Has anyone else dealt with a situation where gambling addiction intersected with what seems like a complete break from reality? How do you handle someone who's created such an elaborate fantasy to justify their actions? And how do you ever trust anyone again after something like this? Edit. Thank you all for the overwhelming support and advice. I'm reading every comment, even if I can't respond to them all. To address some common questions. 1. Yes, I've secured all my important documents and passwords. 2. I've redirected my salary to a new, separate account. 3. I'm working with my lawyer on the credit card fraud issue. 4. I've installed cameras in the common areas of the house, with lawyer's approval. 5. I'm keeping detailed records of all interactions and expenses. I'll update when I can. But right now I'm focused on protecting myself legally and financially while trying to maintain my sanity through all this. Please keep me in your thoughts.